Who's going to own Chelsea Football Club? Who are the favourites? Is it going to be a controversial ownership? That's what we're going to be discussing in today's video, and we'll be citing an article from The Athletic from Liam Twomey, reading a extract from that. The link, of course, is in the description. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, Football Therapy. And I hope you're doing well. With me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well. I really do hope that. And of course, welcome back to Chelsea News. Only one topic at the moment. Chelsea's future is uncertain. We're hoping there can be a positive shift from new ownership. That's not to say Roman did anything bad for Chelsea. He was the ideal figure in terms of ownership, owning a football club, wanting to use the club as a beacon for good in the community, and of course, spending a lot of money and wanting to win. Of course, that is, in many ways, the benchmark for Chelsea, if maybe possibly an unrealistic one in terms of the same success and spending. But something that I've spoken about here on the channel before is, I think, hopefully, this new shift with owners, depending on who they are and what their intentions are, can see us become more stable in different ways than we were under Roman Abramovich. And maybe that gives us the opportunity to build around the current squad and the current coaching staff. And that could be a great thing in terms of Chelsea actually competing with Man City and Liverpool at the top of the Premier League. Today we're going to cite, like I said, some of Liam's article from The Athletic, and we're going to talk about the potential difficulties of some owners. This extract, he talks a lot about the Saudi media group and the Ricketts family. Please do drop a like and subscribe. It means a lot to me as a content creator, and it's a couple of clicks for you, so it's not much graft for a lot of happiness for me, so thank you for doing that. Let's jump in. Again, I'm only reading extracts from Liam's article. I urge you to go check it out, and I link it? I turn into Yoda. Link it, I will. Down in the description. Let's have a little read. I'm picking up in terms of, potential controversy, like I said. It's no wonder then the Rain group, Chelsea, and the UK government have all indicated behind the scenes a desire to find a new owner who best safeguards the future of the club. The number one priority must be to take every possible measure to ensure there can be no repeat of a scenario where one of the world's most successful and most valuable sports teams can suddenly be threatened with insolvency due to punitive action it has done nothing to warrant. Basically saying, look what's happening to Chelsea. Chelsea have got all these sanctions. They, if things went worse, they could go to the wall. The current European champions, it's like mind-blowing how that could happen. And it's up to the UK government, Rain, and Chelsea to ensure that doesn't happen again. Essentially being mindful of future controversy. Against this unusual backdrop, there appears to be very little to encourage the aspirations of the Saudi media group, who submitted a bid reported to be in the region of 2.7 billion on Friday. Their entry into a crowded race was greeted with considerable fanfare by some Chelsea supporters online, no doubt informed by the investment that the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, the PIF, has already brought into Newcastle, and of course the success of other state projects at Manchester City and Paris Saint-Germain. Obviously a lot of people online, they saw the Saudis and they just think dollar signs, obviously, because you'd imagine they'd spend a lot of money. And obviously their reflex is to think about state-owned clubs, to think about Paris Saint-Germain, Man City, and of course the most recent Newcastle, who had a lot of difficulty getting in themselves because of the links to the royal family or the links to the government, stronger links than the Saudi media group, by all accounts, and that's why many people who want the Saudis and the Chelsea fans, they're feeling a bit more confident that there's a better chance for this to happen, or it should be easier than the Newcastle gig. But in many ways, because of all the stuff with Roman Abramovich, and indeed because of the controversy with the Newcastle ownership coming up more ever since, it might actually make it more difficult. Okay, so let's move on. Saudi media group insist they are separate from both the PIF, who owns Newcastle, and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who of course kind of is involved with Newcastle. Two things they would need to prove to the satisfaction of the Premier League in order to complete a takeover. The public face of their bid is Mohammed Al-Khareji, I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, CEO of parent company Engineer Holding Group and a Chelsea fan, though the identities of the other members of the consortium are not yet known. The fact is, the Saudi media group, with an annual turnover around $1 billion a year, does not have the resources to buy Chelsea on its own. Okay, which makes you think they are an isolated private company and they're not getting funds from, this extended, there was the report that we reacted to, that we saw that the collective buyers or who's involved had like a collective value of 1.5 trillion or something. Any financial support from private Saudi investors would further complicate the bid. The very notion of, quote, private wealth in Saudi Arabia has been debatable since November 2017, when nearly 400 of the kingdom's most powerful people were rounded up and detained at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Riyadh. Some of those targeted have since alleged beatings, torture, coercion by security officers under the supervision of government ministers. Saudi state officials subsequently stated that up to $107 billion was returned to the treasury, having been removed from the 87 people that Prince Mohammed has always insisted were guilty of corruption. To many others, it was a purge intended to consolidate power and money within the crown. This is the thing with Saudi Arabia. There's that the money always is linked to the royal family. I think that's relatively inescapable. I haven't actually read. I never read articles before I react to them on my videos, because then it's not organic. That was pretty heavy. So apologies for that. Within this context, proving separation between Saudi and media group and their co-investors from Saudi state might not be straightforward. Al-Khareji presents himself publicly as having a positive relationship with the ruling family of his homeland. His Twitter profile depicts him smiling to bin Salman, while his background photo is taken from an official meeting with King Salman bin Abdulaziz and Al Saud. Sorry, my pronunciation is terrible. That was sort of... it's going to be difficult to separate that, isn't it? Saudi interest in Chelsea is unlikely to be the sticking point for UK government. So this is something we've spoken about before. With Prime Minister Boris Johnson eager to secure a greater supply from oil from the Gulf and lessen reliance on Russia. We've spoken about this before. It's essentially Boris is broken up with Russia in terms of fuel, and they're going to cozy up to Saudi to try and get that oil and gas or whatever. But would it be just a continuation of the last 19 years at Stamford Bridge, leaving one of the country's most valuable sporting assets open to accusations of sports washing and vulnerable to the changing of the winds of British foreign policy? Yeah, so you could think of out of the pan and into the fire, whatever it is, the expression, in terms of future controversy, in terms of political stuff and soft power plays like we've spoken about before. Red flags. Okay, so we're going to read a little bit more here. We're going to talk about the Ricketts because there's two parts of this video. It moves on here. That's the deal with the Saudi media group. Basically, to wrap up there, it's essentially a case of they'd have to fully prove to the Premier League, the owners, directors, testing everyone, that they are not linked to the government. They're seemingly all linked to the royal family, but they're not linked to the government. I think that is going to be problematic in terms of getting a deal done quickly. But if there's an element of, look, you did it with Newcastle, they've got tighter links on us. I have no idea if it will work or not, but that could put Chelsea under threat for future controversy. And that indeed goes the same for Newcastle United. I don't feel like they're completely safe here. I feel like, as perhaps governing bodies try and clean up football, try and clean up the money in football, and they put they're going to put a human rights record element in the owners directors test that, by the way, wouldn't get in time for this takeover, so Chelsea could get in before the test, but so that there could be retrospective action on Newcastle, maybe, we don't know. So let's move on from, one potential difficulty to, I think, one ownership that no one wants, and that's the Ricketts family. So Liam Twomey goes on here to say, red flags can also be found among rival bidders. Step forward, the Ricketts family, owners of the Chicago Cubs baseball team, who previously expressed an interest in buying Chelsea in 2018, as did Todd Boehly. So that's obviously a lot of people stepped up when Roman withdrew his visa application. 1 year before a series of emails were leaked to Splinter, detailing a number of startlingly Islamophobic comments made by Joe Ricketts, the patriarch of the family. The bid for Chelsea is being fronted by Cubs chairman Tom Ricketts, along with his siblings Laura and Todd. But it's not hard to imagine how N'Golo Kante, Antonio Rudiger, Hakim Ziyech and Malang Sarr, let alone the club's legions of Muslim fans worldwide, might react to the news that their new owners are descendants of a man who in what he believed was a private email exchange in 2012, typed the following: Christians and Jews have a mutual respect for each other to create a civil society. As you know, Islam cannot do that. Therefore, we cannot ever let Islam become a large part of our society. Muslims are naturally our enemy due to their deep antagonism and their bias against non-Muslims. Oh, Jesus. Probably a wrong turn of phrase to say there, but that is pretty dire, that. On several occasions, Ricketts Sr. denounces Islam as a cult, including in one email he sent to his son Pete, the incumbent Republican governor of the family's home state of Nebraska. So, yeah, it goes on. There's a lot more in this article. I'm not going to read it out because it's behind a paywall, but I wanted to talk about difficulties because we want what's best for Chelsea, and for different reasons there. Owners and directors test for SMG and whether they'd get through quickly in a time Chelsea need to get through quickly, and if they do get in, what are the ramifications for the protection of the club in the future? Are they going to be in a position where they're constantly going to keep getting questioned, like Newcastle United are constantly going to get questioned? The Ricketts family, what are their intentions of Chelsea? Horribly Islamophobic emails from the top of the family. Just really horrible stuff. You don't feel like that's Chelsea have been about non-discrimination, inclusion. The beautiful game for everyone. And you just bringing that in from the top is just huge red flags for me, and I imagine for all my viewers, essentially. So what have we got left? Todd Boehly still apparently the front runner. A lot of people are warming to him that perhaps weren't originally, in terms of people are just showing all the franchises he's involved in. He just wants them all to win. He spends. He's already tried to buy Chelsea before in 2018 and has plans for Chelsea. Of course, there's Nick Candy. We don't know what's going on with him, that he might be dipping out of the race a little bit. And yeah, there's the Broughton Consortium and stuff like that. We'll find out in the coming days. Things are moving quickly, but it's important. A lot of people don't care about the owners, they just want the money. But I think it's important as fans, we do reflect and think about this for the greater good and the future of Chelsea Football Club, so we can protect the club moving forwards when perhaps things change again, and in the geopolitical climate that people don't like to hear. It's not about football, but that's life, baby. So we got to keep an eye on it. I will of course keep you updated as anything changes, and things are changing quickly, so make sure you keep it locked and turn on the bell when you subscribe. And hopefully we'll have a little bit more upbeat, positive news in the next video, and we can talk about potential owners and what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and do we hopefully we back them. Keep it locked. See you soon. Peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy talk. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.